Hello everyone. Today we'll be talking about two technologies, Varnish and Cloudflare. Together they will help you speed up your website and protect it from malicious attacks. First, we'll begin with Varnish. So what is Varnish? Varnish is primarily an HTTP accelerator. What this means is that when a page is initially loaded for the first time, it analyzes the page for static content and intelligently caches that static content to RAM. Additionally, it can also act as a software load balancer. This is achieved by specifying multiple web servers which Varnish can use to get data from. Now, why would we want to use Varnish? Varnish can help make your web pages load much faster. For a static page, loading times can be reduced by as much as 70%. Because the content is loaded from RAM, CPU usage is also lower. This is because the web server does not need to process any server-side scripts such as PHP, nor does it have to communicate with the database to retrieve static content. Varnish also supports modules for extended functionality. One such module is curl, which allows Varnish to talk to external web servers to retrieve content. And the best part about Varnish is that it's free. So how does Varnish work? Without Varnish, when a user requests a web page, all of these requests will hit the Apache server and all of the PHP scripts and all the database queries will execute before the page is passed back to the user. Now with Varnish, when a user requests a web page, Varnish will determine which parts of the web page it does not need to load again. So if the entire web page, for example PHP info, can be loaded from memory, the entire page was just passed back to the user without ever requesting it from the Apache server. Okay, so now we're going to do a demo. Here I have a fresh installation of Ubuntu with PHP and Apache installed. I have set the default home page to the PHP info page. Now I'm going to benchmark this version without Varnish installed by using the AB tool by the Apache Foundation. Now we're going to install this tool by using sudo apt-get install apache2-utils. Once that's installed, you can run AB and it should show you a list of parameters that you can use to run benchmarks on any web server. Now I've created a command which will run this benchmark against the server that's installed on this computer. As you can see, the time that it takes is still fairly fast. So processing is roughly 17 milliseconds, waiting is 15 milliseconds, in total 17 milliseconds. However, it does peak to 181 and 172, which is not bad. But you will see that there are still some failed requests because Apache can't handle so many requests at once. Now, we're going to install Varnish and we will benchmark this again with Varnish installed and we will see what the result is. Now, we're going to begin installing Varnish. On the official Varnish webpage, there's actually specific instructions for installing it for Ubuntu. However, these instructions needs a little modifications to get perfectly installed if you have a fresh install of Ubuntu. So let's begin. So issue sudo apt-get for this package. Now this second step is the one that may need some modification. So if you copy the entire thing and issue the command, you may not actually have curl installed, like it says here. Also, it says error, this command can only be used by root. Now what it's actually complaining about is this second part with apt-key add. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to first install curl. So sudo apt-get install curl. Okay. Now once that's installed, copy this command, paste it, go to the very beginning, and add sudo. Now after the pipe character, also add sudo. Okay, now it's fine. Now that we have the key added, we're going to continue by doing step 3. So we're going to paste it, and we're going to modify this slightly because I'm using 1404 to trusty, and add sudo in front and add sudo after. Okay, and that's fine. So now we're going to do step 4, which is to update the repositories. Whoops, gotta do sudo apt-get update. And now sudo apt-get install Varnish. Yes. And now Varnish should be installed because it's started. Now that we have Varnish installed, it is time now to configure Varnish. So we're going to issue sudo nano /etc /default /varnish, and you should come into this configuration file. Now we're going to skip alternative 1 and come down to alternative 2. Now what you need to change is this A colon to 80 so that Varnish is the server that's actually being listened to on port 80 instead of Apache, for example. Now the other stuff should remain the same. Now just hit Control O and Enter to write it out. Now we're going to hit Control X to exit the file editor, and now we have another file to edit, which is under /etc/varnish/default.vcl. Okay. So this, if you're hosting it on the same computer, should already be correct. What this means is that Varnish is going to connect to your web server on port 8080. So just make sure that's correct and hit Control X to exit. And now you're done configuring Varnish. Next, we're going to configure Apache. We're going to begin configuring Apache by changing the port that it listens on. So issue sudo nano /etc/apache2/ports.com. So here you need to edit this. Instead of 80, we're going to make it listen to on port 8080, as we set earlier in the Varnish config. There is also another file that we also need to edit, which resides on acc/apache2/sites available. Now take a look at what files are here. Your file may be only called default, whereas mine is, as you can see, 000-default.com. So I'm going to be editing that one. So sudo nano default.com. See, this is the part where you have to change. Instead of port 80, you're also going to change it to port 8080. So just hit Control O to write the changes and hit Control X to exit. Now, here's where you should disable Apache before you try again, because this may cause conflicts if Apache is running. So we're going to issue sudo service apache2 stop. Okay, so now that it's stopped, we're going to do sudo a2dis site 000default.conf. Okay, so now we're going to enable it again because we made changes to that file. a2en site 000-default.conf. Okay, so now we're going to restart both Apache and Varnish. So first off, we're going to do sudo service apache2 restart. Okay, just ignore the error message. It's fine. So just now we're going to do sudo service Varnish restart. Alright, so now if you go to localhost/index.php, the site should load just fine. Now we're just going to go benchmark it to show that in fact Varnish is serving this page and not Apache. To benchmark Varnish, I'm going to run the same command as I did before when I only had Apache installed. While that's running, I'm going to pull up the previous results and put them side by side. So you can see the times went from 17 milliseconds to down to 979, which is roughly half. Now, maximum also went down by roughly 70 milliseconds, but the most important metric is failed requests. It went from 512 failed to 0. So if your website is online, this is a number that you really do care about. And to finally verify that both Varnish and Apache are running, you can run this page again to check that this page is still up. And then we can also open port 8080, which should be served by Apache. And there it is. And that's it for Varnish. Thank you.
Alright, so that's Varnish. A quick recap. Varnish is a software that sits in front of your web server, which can greatly speed up your website while reducing the load on the server. Cloudflare, on the other hand, is very popular for the security benefits it provides. On a very high level, you have your web app sitting in your web server, and whenever someone comes to your website, they go straight to your unprotected web server. You have your usual users. We have Google, Yahoo, and Bing crawling and indexing your website. And we have bad people, the spammers, people who take advantage of exploits, and people who try to make your server unable to respond to legitimate requests by sending denial of service attacks to your server. Now, what Cloudflare does is it sits in the middle between your server and your users, and it analyzes all web traffic coming to your server. It scans the traffic to see if a visitor appears to be a threat based on a number of characteristics, including the visitor's IP address, what resource they are requesting, what payload they are posting, how frequent they're making requests, etc. Assuming the visitor is not a threat, Cloudflare gives the thumbs up and sends the visitor's request to your server. If the visitor is deemed suspicious, there are a number of methods Cloudflare implements, like presenting a CAPTCHA to verify the person, or if the person is a recognized threat, the request is blocked altogether. In this presentation, I will show you how to set up your project to use the Cloudflare infrastructure. Cloudflare is very easy to deploy, and most people only takes around 5 minutes to set things up. It requires no additional hardware, no software, no changes to your existing code whatsoever. You only need to make one change on your name server settings. I will assume you already have a domain name bought from one of the domain name registrars, and you already have your web server set up. Alright, first thing we need to do is open up your domain name registrar. In my case, it's namecheap.com. And your web host, in my case, I'm using linode.com and cloudflare.com. Register to Cloudflare. It's pretty straightforward. I already have an account registered, so I'll just log in. Type in your domain name and click Add Website. Now, what Cloudflare is doing is it's scanning your current DNS records from your current DNS host, and it tries to migrate them to Cloudflare. Check your IP address, check the IP address of your server if it's the right thing, and click continue. The default setting should be okay. Click continue. Now we need to change our name servers. go to your domain name registrar's website and open your domains setting. In my case, it's under account information and ryansario.com and transfer DNS to web host. Now go back to Cloudflare and copy the name servers and paste them to your registrar's custom DNS server form. And click Save Changes. Back in Cloudflare, click I've updated my name servers and continue. And that's it. It will take a few moments for the server settings to propagate among the network servers. In my case, I only had to wait a couple of minutes. When your server settings has been applied, you can see several options beside your domain name: apps, analytics, and threat control. If you click analytics, it will show you a dashboard of your current traffic report. You can see how much traffic is coming to your website, how many threats Cloudflare has blocked, and several other useful information. You can customize your security settings under threat control, add whitelist of your IP addresses, or block certain IPs or even countries. You can further customize this under settings and Cloudflare settings. That's it for our video presentation of Varnish and Cloudflare. Thank you all for watching and have a beautiful day.